I kinda touched upon this already in my Let's Talk About Solaris video, but I want a whole video dedicated to this topic. There have been many villains in the Sonic franchise, and that's not even counting outside of the games, but not many of them seem to achieve their actual goals. Some do come quite close, but I don't think many came as close as Mephiles. In fact, I'd even argue that Mephiles was one of the very few villains to actually win, and I'm going to discuss why.
Mephiles time!
First of all, let's get the main thing out of the way. He killed Sonic. And this isn't like what happened in Generations where both Sonics died for a few seconds. When Mephiles killed Sonic, you had 7 stages dedicated to gathering the emeralds to revive him with. Sonic's death and revival didn't happen in a single cutscene. I'd actually say that Sonic's death was one of the most powerful moments in the franchise. Even though we knew he'd come back, it was still handled at a steady pace to make the player genuinely feel the sadness of the characters. Now, let's move on a little. Let's take a look at the stages where you need to gather the emeralds. You go through every stage you visited throughout the game, but something's not quite right. Oh yeah, those wormholes that are trying to suck you in. These wormholes kill the enemies in the area, and as more appear, the world changes its colour and just feels darker. There are also other wormholes which throw items at you from other locations. I may as well mention that these wormholes look like eyes. The green ones trying to suck you in could be Mephiles, and the orange ones throwing things at you could be Iblis's. Either way, they both represent Solaris. The only way to get rid of these wormholes is to strike an eagle monument which essentially resets time for a moment. These eagles are again there to represent Solaris, but for some reason he lets his own power be used against him, unless there's another Solaris. Please go and watch my Solaris video for more info there. So these wormholes are there to show you that time is literally being torn apart around you. You're visiting locations at different points in time too, like Crisis City, because at this point in the game, Solaris has already fractured time merely by coming into existence. The ultimate goal of Mephiles, as stated by Shadow, is to fuel Solaris to consume time until there is nothing left of time at all. But Mephiles' original goal was to just get Iblis out of Elise's body. Mephiles achieves the latter goal, since he releases Iblis and fuses with him to become Solaris. And as for his second one, he actually does kind of achieve it. There is already no time left when Solaris forms, aside from a few pockets here and there, where the heroes are conveniently placed. And because Solaris exists in the past, present and future, it essentially already has destroyed time just by existing. Even when Sonic, Shadow and Silver defeat Solaris, Solaris still isn't beaten. Sonic and Elise are transported to a point in time by Solaris itself after it seemingly consumes the time-space rift, and that's the point in time where Elise blows out the Flame of Hope and erases the entire timeline for Sonic 06. The experiments never happened. Mephiles and Iblis never came into existence. Elise never held Iblis' spirit. Mephiles was never trapped in the Scepter of Darkness. Mephiles never met Shadow. Silver's future was never destroyed. And Sonic never met Elise because Eggman never tried to capture her at the festival. The entire timeline is changed, not just 10 years, since the game takes place 10 years after the accident, but the entirety of existence itself after the accident. Silver's future is 200 years ahead, and the world is devastated by Iblis. Even 2 centuries on from the accident, it was still affecting the future. Mephiles went to that future himself and saw the devastation, and because Iblis is an eternal flame, he would no doubt remain alive until the end of time. Obviously, Mephiles wasn't satisfied with that outcome at all. I also kind of like to imagine that Mephiles has existed for longer than we think. Maybe he lived for 200 years, or more. Maybe he tried to change the outcome of the future in so many different ways. He might have taken a long time to work out who contained Iblis' spirit in their body. Maybe he even figured out that because of his power to travel through time, he essentially could never run out of time to achieve his goal, so he just decided to mess around with people until he was bored. In fact, You know what character he kind of reminds me of, if this were the case? Flowey from Undertale. For anyone who's never played Undertale, Flowey was able to reset time. In his own words, he read every book and burned every book. He once made everyone happy, but because he was incapable of feeling emotion, he tried to kill himself, but he just kept resetting time and seeing the same people. And because this kept happening, he found that everyone was predictable. He had practically done everything. And in the end, he assumes a powerful form using the Chaos Emeralds, human souls, and basically wants to control time itself so that he can win for once and have things his way. Maybe Mephiles was like this. Maybe he's done more than we think. He might have been the one to cause Dr. Eggman's ship to crash so that Elise could release Iblis, since according to reports in the future, Iblis did emerge that day, and Mephiles seemed to believe in those reports. But instead, Iblis just died with Elise. Mephiles would have then done everything to find a way to make her cry. Maybe in one timeline he tortured her physically, but she just died of trauma. Maybe he tried to frighten her, but instead scared her to death. The only way to make her cry would be to kill someone she loved, but according to him, everyone she loved died when she was too young to really understand death. That was until Mephiles figured out that Sonic was someone she cared about. At that point, he knew he could just screw around with people until he got bored, which is exactly what he did. Then, just like Flowey in Undertale, he assumed his true form with the human souls, Chaos Emeralds, and became Solaris, where he attempted to destroy time. But did he intend to destroy time? He never really says this. In fact, he always tells Shadow that he wants to rewrite the future. Maybe he was actually telling the truth, as unbelievable as it may seem. Maybe he did want to rewrite the future, but first he had to destroy time itself. Again, in my Solaris video, I talk about how Mephiles might have planned for Sonic to defeat him all along. So if we were to assume that Mephiles wanted to rewrite time, then it would make sense to assume that part of his plan was to have Sonic defeat him. Then again, maybe he didn't plan for that, but either way, would it not be safe to say that he got what he wanted? Time was rewritten after his defeat. He might not have been there to see it for himself, but he finally changed time. Millions of years into the future was rewritten, all because of his actions. And he set back the hero so much. Sonic never got to experience love. Elise probably never got to experience love, and maybe she did die in some kind of flight accident that didn't involve Eggman. Shadow never had an emotional journey of self-discovery where he strengthened the bonds with his two closest friends. Silver's future was still in complete ruin, but by other means. So it's not like Mephiles died to make the world a better place or anything. He simply had time rewritten into something different. Maybe he caused even more suffering by doing that. Thus, I think it really is safe to say that Mephiles won. He achieved both his goals, to fuse with Iblis and to destroy/rewrite time. Other villains always try to destroy, but never do. Chaos was just causing destruction, but then healed his soul or whatever. The Bio-Lizard was supposed to destroy the Earth, but didn't. Shadow was supposed to destroy the Earth, but didn't. Melina was supposed to alter time, but didn't after she had a change of heart. Metal Sonic wanted to rule a robot kingdom, but was defeated before he could even try. They all tried, but failed. The only other time villains have come close to winning would be Sonic Forces, where Eggman and Infinite both achieve what they wanted, world domination and the defeat of Sonic. The only thing is, the execution in this game was terrible. In Sonic 06, there is a build-up to the villain achieving his goal. In Sonic Forces, there was no build-up at all. So even if there are other villains who do technically win in the franchise, I think Mephiles still did it the best. Even so, Mephiles is the only one who's had long-lasting effects. Infinite and Eggman were eventually defeated, and Sonic and friends reclaimed what they had taken, but no one has ever been able to reclaim what Mephiles took, which was the Sonic 06 timeline. And that's all I really have to say about this. To sum this all up, let's just recap on why I believe Mephiles won. First, his original goal was to release Iblis and fuse with him to become Solaris. He achieved that. Second, his next goal was to consume time. Time was already fractured and damaged the moment he became Solaris, and after the three hedgehogs beat him, more time was consumed anyway. Third, his third goal, which is something he told Shadow repeatedly, was that he wanted to rewrite the future. Time was rewritten after his defeat. Yeah, sure, that third goal was likely a lie, but if you think about it, Mephiles never specifically said he desired to consume time. Shadow just assumed it when he had no evidence to support it. So overall, I definitely think Mephiles won. And I think he's the only villain in the Sonic franchise to be so successful. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to leave a comment discussing your ideas about this little theory of mine, or maybe ideas for your own theories regarding Mephiles' success. Also, be sure to join the squad Discord, and follow me on Twitter if you want to see me lose my brain cells. Oh yeah, and do subscribe if you haven't done so already. This has been Lord Danny, and I am signing out.